quarterly Roasters Guild Trierside chat. My name is Danny Goot, and I'll be leading today's panel discussion on the Roasters Championship and qualifying events. This is our fourth Trierside chat panel for the Roasters Guild, and it will be the last of 2016. I encourage you all to submit topics via the Roasters Guild content submission form on our website so we can continue to hit all the topics you're interested in. We really wanted to address the topics that you want, but we can't do it unless you let us know what you want to hear. If you're streaming live, please tweet your questions to #RoastersGuild. After our panel discussion, we'll be hosting a Q&A session. Today, we are primarily focusing on the Roasters Championship's new rules today, but we are joined by a diverse competition panel. Pretty exciting competition panel. First off, we have Jess Steffi of Square One, and she is the chair of the competition committee of the U.S. Coffee Championships. She will be giving us an intro to the Coffee Champs formation and its season's format. Pretty exciting. We also have Jen Apodaca of Royal Coffee. She is the events committee chair of the Roasters Guild. She's also up for re-election to the Roasters Executive Council, Roasters Guild Executive Council this year. So just another friendly reminder to cast your ballot for the 2017 to 2019 candidates. So this will be on December 21st is when you'll have that to be able to do that. Today, Jen will be discussing the new Roaster Championship rules and format. We also have Nathaniel May. He is coming here from Portland Roasting Company, and he is a U.S. Barista Championship head judge, and we'll be discussing his experience and his as a competition judge. Now, if any of you know Nathaniel, yeah, he's a pretty judgy person, so this is perfect for him. Last but definitely not least, Tony Querio will be sharing his experiences as a competitor. Tony is the director of coffee for Spy House, and it also happens to be the 2016 Roasters Championship winner, which I was able to witness. That was pretty awesome. There's a lot to talk about this session, so I want to turn over the mic to our panelists. And don't forget to tweet your questions to #RoastersGuild. First off, we have Jess. Jess, do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, can you hear me, Danny?
Sounds great.
Great. So I'll just lay a brief foundation for kind of where we've come from in these coffee competitions. I know a lot of our friends and family are still astounded when they find out that there is such a thing as competitions for baristas and brewers and roasters and now tasters and for latte art. It's really expanded over the last decade, of course, starting back in like 2002 with the first iteration of barista competitions, and then of course the roasters having their competitions starting as early as I believe it's 2009. So the whole point of this obviously is to build up and encourage and professionalize the craft of the barista, the brewer, and the roaster to serve as a way to celebrate those who are really displaying excellence and just innovating in the craft, and also just to obviously whenever we get together as professionals, there's networking, there's encouragement, there's a platform to share ideas. And then something that we haven't put as much emphasis on, but was kind of a natural byproduct of us getting together as an industry, was consumers would get really excited and they would get jazzed up over all these crazy coffee people in town, and we would kind of rub off in our little areas. And so that's something that we're excited to kind of put a little more emphasis on this year, and that would that'll be definitely present in these qualifying events and carrying through to the USBC. Just this bringing everybody along, no coffee lover left behind, I guess, so to speak. So yeah, these qualifying events, if you've been paying attention for a long time, you know that it used to be like 12 regions throughout the US that competition existed in, and then it pared down to about 9 regions, 6 regions, and then 3 regions where it was the Big East, the Big Central, the Big West. This is kind of putting regions aside and saying, let's put competitions in places that don't ordinarily have access to amazing, awesome coffee events like Portland and Seattle and New York. And let's spread the love around around a little bit. Let's get people involved who might not otherwise have a chance to get out to Seattle for Expo, and let's also help those companies and those coffee communities in those areas to better tell the story of specialty coffee, to continue to increase the size of our community at large, which is just great job security for all of us. So that's the why and the kind of how we got here. So this year there'll be 2 qualifying events, one in Knoxville in January and one in Austin in February. And all those dates and all that info can be found at US Coffee Championships. If somebody wants to pop the address of that up there, uscoffeechampionships.org. That is where you can find all the info on the rules and regs, and specifically this audience is interested in the roasters portion of that, and so we've got the wonderful Jen Apodaca here to speak to the specifics on that. I'm the chair of competitions committee, so my job is just to kind of help facilitate the development of all the different competitions and make sure they each get representation and judge development, and kind of spread the love, because the barista competition is my background, and that's a competition that has the most experience in judges training and all of these things. We're trying to really spread out and make sure that these competitions are really serving the community as best they can. So I think that's it. Is there anything I missed? Any questions that come up?
That was great. Thanks so much. So if you want to keep questions over basic, any questions that you have about basic competitions, you can definitely ask Jess. So again, hashtag Roasters Guild, and those questions will come into us and we'll be able to ask. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jess?
No, I think there may be some spots open still for the roasters competition, and so there's a couple spots open for judges in Knoxville, I believe, if there's anybody. And we always have volunteer spots. I guess definitely can always put in the plug for, we need timekeepers, bussers, runners, people to wipe down espresso machines and help prep for the judges. There's just a zillion different jobs. So if you're looking to kind of get a behind the scenes look at things, and kind of maybe you're thinking about competing in the future and you want to get a look at what it's all about, we've never turned a volunteer away. So that's all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. Now we'd like to talk to my good friend, Jen Apodaca, who has come up with some new rules along with the Roasters Guild regarding the Roasters competition. Very exciting this year. I'm very excited about it. I can't wait to see this happen. And Jen, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit to the rules this year?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think that I've been a little kind of maybe not, I don't know if you guys can even hear me, to be honest. You guys are all frozen. Can you hear me? Okay, fantastic. Because for a while, Steffi and Danny were talking at the same time on my computer, so I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi connection. All right, so Roasters Guild competition. We've made a lot of changes this year. Last year, there was quite a few changes as well. It was the first time we really opened up the competition to 40 different competitors, and this year is our first time doing anything with qualifying events, which is pretty cool. Sorry. And so at the qualifying events, we'll have spaces for a total of 60 roasters, 30 roasters at each event. I'm happy to say that the qualifying event in Austin is sold out. We have no more space for any more roasting competitors there, which is really cool. And I believe we have either 5 or 6 spaces still open for Knoxville. So if you're interested in competing, I completely think that you should totally do it. The entry-level fee is, I believe it's $195, totally affordable. You'll be around all of your peers. Why don't you want to hang out with a bunch of roasters anyway in a roasting competition and serve some coffee? And just recently, I got to sample the compulsory coffee that everyone will be roasting. There's a choice of 2. Our sponsor is Genuine Origin, and they were kind enough to send me 6 samples, 6 very delicious samples, and We narrowed it down to 2, and I'm not sure which one they're going to pick, but both of them are pretty cool coffees. Both of them would take a lot of skill to really nail and make really amazing. So you definitely should step up to the challenge and compete. All right, so should I keep talking? I feel like I talk too much, man. Other changes for this competition is that last year we sort of had like a large group and we narrowed it down with several stages. I believe there might have been like 3 or 4 stages of judging, like going from 40 and narrowing it down to 12 and then narrowing it down to 6. And also some audience participation. Audience was also allowed to judge. This year, the audience will not be judging, but they can still taste the coffees, which is really cool. We wanted to keep that in there. What we're going to do is, for the qualifying events, everyone will get a minimum of 20 pounds of coffee sent to them at their facility where they can roast the coffee how they choose to on whatever machine that they used to roast it on. That coffee, they will need to bring 2 pounds with them to the quality. We will taste that coffee brewed, the judging panel will, and we will score it using our roaster evaluation form. And that coffee will basically get a score between 0 to 100, probably closer to 100 and not as close to 0. So I think a lot of roasters hopefully are familiar with the form, and if you're not, like, you should definitely check it out and contact somebody in the Roasters Guild and get some more information about like what that form is and how you get points on that form. From there, the coffee will then go, you will be on the stage with the coffee that you roasted. And this is new. You will need to give a presentation, not a very long presentation like Brewer's Cup or Barista Championship or any of that. It's just 5 minutes. You'll be tested on your roast knowledge, your coffee knowledge, and really like your accuracy to explain like what flavors you pulled out of that coffee and what your true intentions were for that coffee to taste like. So the judges have already tasted your coffee blind, and now they're going to taste it with you and your explanation to say like, you know, I got this coffee. I knew it was a Papua New Guinea when I saw it, when I just, you know, at first crack on my first sample roast, and I could tell, like, you know, anything that you want to tell, like anything that any of the green coffee metrics that you deduce from this coffee and make you decide to roast it the way that you do and bring out the flavors that you think are the most valuable, that will just demonstrate your knowledge of green coffee and your knowledge of the machine that you roast on. And then also talk about like how you influence that coffee, the flavors that we as judges are tasting. So that is cool, and I'm really excited about that. And after the judges taste the coffees will be available for the audience to taste. So as an attendee of the competition, you can taste all of the coffees that the judges will be tasting, which I think is pretty cool. So highest score wins. And the top 6 from Knoxville and the top 6 from Austin will be going to compete at the finals at Expo. And that's it.
Cool. Thanks so much, Jen.
Yeah.
You're such an angel. Like,
I am so nice.
Have this thing like that's just, I don't know what it's telling me, but you feel like so sweet and angel-like.
Yes, Saint Jen.
Saint Jen. Just kidding. Oh, thanks, Jen. Now I want to talk to somebody who has been a U.S. Barista Championship head judge, Professor Nathaniel May. Why don't you tell us a little bit what it's like to be a judge at these events?
I will do that. And there's a truck right by me, so this is gonna be like an Aaron Sorkin show. We're gonna do a walk and talk.
This is feeling like we're doing a news broadcast right now.
Yeah, I can't feel my face on this Trierside chat, but I like it. So being a judge at the U.S. Barista Championship or the qualifying events or the regional events is a completely awesome experience. It is a chance for people who have been honing their skills in coffee professions and being able to taste things and being able to assess the efficiencies of like producing espresso or producing coffee, but maybe they're not interested in competing with those skills, and they're not interested in taking that skill into a gauntlet to see how they compare with other people, but they've got skills and they want to share those skills. Well, we need those skills in judging. We need those people who can taste variances in flavor, and we need people that can look at somebody's tamping technique and their dosing technique and their ability to steam milk efficiently and assess it objectively, and then, you know, write down a good score that's accurate and fair, and somebody whose knowledge of the rules and regulations that have been honed over more than a decade of figuring out what is going to be the best way for us to assess this in a fair way so that everyone has the same chance. And so, I mean, I said this in the video a few weeks ago, but judging changed my life. Judging took me from one level of expertise in coffee, and it took me to a different level of expertise, not just because I was around amazing baristas, which I was, and not just because I was seeing innovative new techniques in preparing coffee, which I was, but because I got to be around other people who are interested in judging. And those people are the people that have honestly made me the person that I am in coffee. Not that that's anything great or special. I'm not special, but I feel special. I feel special because of the experience that I've had judging. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. And people ask me if I've competed before, and I say no, because that's the truth, and I tell the truth. But I don't want to compete. I want to be a judge, and I want to hone my skills in that, because probably one of the saddest things for me, and I know that this is true for other people in the competitions committee as well, is when somebody learns to be a judge and excels as a judge and then stops being a judge. And their experience was, I just wanted to do this for a couple of years and move on, which is fine, but it's a loss. It's a loss to competitions, and it's a loss to all of us to lose that person that has experience in doing this very, very particular niche task that not a lot of people are necessarily skilled at doing. That said, just because not a lot of people are skilled at doing it doesn't mean that we can't train a lot of people to do it. And so if that's something that you're interested in, good grief, please come and judge with us and learn that skill and be around those people. Again, and I know I say this all the time, judging is the best thing that I do in the coffee industry. It is the thing that gets me up in the morning a few days a year, and it is the thing that makes me happiest outside of my family and my close friends. So yeah, I think judging is amazing, and I think everyone should do it, and please do it.
Hey, Nathaniel, how long do you remember the first time you judged, and how long ago was that?
The first time I judged was in 2010, so not that long ago. And that experience started out as I knew that the competition needed a volunteer, or needed lots of volunteers. And I was happy to do exactly what Jess said, to go, and I was going to wipe down espresso machines. I was going to, click a timer and do that. And I was going to be perfectly happy. And then it turned out that the competition in Tacoma needed technical judges, and I didn't have any faith in my palate or my ability to taste things, but I did have faith in my ability to push a timer and see how long somebody was making their espresso for. And I knew what bar efficiency looked like. And so I knew I could assess that. And so that was the beginning of my experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I think a lot of these, like, to get into doing any kind of events or competitions or judging, there's a lot of intimidation factor, and I can totally see it. And when I see you, I've watched you judge plenty of times. I actually have a lot of fun watching you judge than anything else at the events. So I go and watch Nathaniel judge, and it's pretty intense to see the judges and how they do it. It's pretty inspiring. But thanks for thanks for taking a few minutes to talk about that. Hopefully we'll have some questions in a little bit for you. But we're going to move on to Tony. Tony was the champion of the 2016 Roasters Championships. I was there, and I actually competed in that competition as well. And I competed in that before I was on the Roasters Guild Executive Council, and it was kind of like this really weird timing. But it's actually when I met Tony for the first time, and what a great dude. Let's hear from him, and let's hear about his experiences. Tony, you ready to talk a little bit about how it went down for you at the championship?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, one of the coolest things that came out of it, kind of jumping to the back end, was all of the people I got to know that I didn't get to. Like Danny is someone I consider a good friend now, and look forward to seeing at events coming up. And we had never met before. It makes people that you saw as heroes and inspirations from outside actually become friends, which is really cool. So yeah, I competed for the first time the previous year in Long Beach, and I'm pretty sure that I took last. I remember going through the panel of coffees when they had all of them out for display, and tasting one coffee, and it stood out as being really, really not good. And then they called us out in order, and I counted down that line, and it was mine. And I took my judges' feedback, and I almost didn't enter this past year. About 3 days into registration, someone's like, "Hey, registration's open, you should enter." And I decided to put my name in there just so I had a placeholder. If I decided to back out, I could open that spot to somebody else, but I didn't want to regret it. And I'm really glad I didn't regret it. Coming into it again this year, I had very, very, very little confidence arriving, as Jen can attest to. She was sitting next to me on submission day, working the Roasters Guild table, and I did not think I had done well. It was really fun after I'd won to see Jen and some other people come running to give me a big hug, and reminded me of the things I had said just a few days before. Being the champion has been really cool. I'm sure that kind of goes without saying, but a lot of really great opportunities have come from it. I got to do a couple small media pieces, like the Abstract podcast. I got to be one of the early people on that. That was really cool, and it's cool to see what Joe, who's also on the executive council, has done with that this year. I got to go to Brazil with the champions. It was really cool. The format changing up a little bit this past year. The first and second place from each of the three, brewers, roasters, and barista traveling to Brazil together was really neat, and getting to go on a trip. In my experience, the trips I've gone on have been almost exclusively roasters, occasionally, a trainer level barista or something. But getting to travel with people whose focus is the barista end or the brewer's end, your origin trip experience is completely different, because they're asking questions that aren't the same questions that a bunch of roasters are going to ask. We're asking elevation, hectare, those kind of things, and a barista or a brewer is asking completely different things, and it's a very eye-opening experience. I am really excited about the format change coming up this year. I know this competition has been evolving as each year as it's gone on, and hearing rumors of things that may come in and stuff. I'm incredibly excited about the presentation round. It's really, I'm really excited to see what people say, and all of the things going on with that. Yeah, I am re-entering because I wasn't going to. With before any of the rules changed, but with the format changing, I'm gonna try it again.
Well, that's really exciting. Yeah, I remember when you know, at the last minute when they called your name, just the look of like just disbelief and shock that you had. It was pretty awesome, and I felt totally stoked to see you win. And the coffee was fantastic, by the way, too.
And, I mean, I'm glad that the service end is staying, like along with the presentation, and that the service side is staying on, because it was a huge honor being in that top 6, you know, alongside friends of mine or people who became friends because of that. Kyle Bellinger, who took second, we're good friends now, and we get to hang out a lot in Brazil. But being able to have the Roasters Guild Executive Council, having Mary come down that line, and getting to pour those people cups who had done so much for the industry for so long, and just everyone. I mean, there were people who just were in the arena because they were just they were into coffee, and somebody heard they were in Atlanta for the weekend and told them, hey, if you have an hour, go check this place out. I'm glad both ends are there, that we want roasters to share their knowledge, and then also being able to still serve that to the masses and the public, and you get to give a little back. You know, we as roasters don't get to pour people cups of coffee very often. And it's why we got into the industry usually, and we rarely get to do it anymore. So it was really cool.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it is. That's the fun part. Like when people ask me, like, what my favorite part of the industry was, it was definitely when I get to engage with the customers, and that's always been my favorite thing to do, for sure. So this is a lot of fun to do for you, I'm sure. Roasters are always back at house. They're always you know, minding the back of the shop and are communicating with the baristas if they're lucky. And that's about it. Thanks, Tony. I want to ask Jen a question too. I can't, if you can remind us on what the winner wins this year for the championship.
Sure. The winner of the Roasters Guild Championship gets a trip of their choice to either the Roasters Guild Retreat or to Sensory Summit. One of the things that we're really working hard on is potentially getting this person to go to the World Coffee Roasting Championship. There is still a lot of red tape and a lot of lobbying, but we are trying like so incredibly hard. I mean, it's definitely a priority for us, but if we can't do it, I am positive that it's going to happen next year. So this year, I can't say yes yet, but I'm trying to make it so. One of those things that you'll notice is that, and I'm trying to look inside my notes, but in the Roasters competition, the entry fee for the national competition is like half the price of the other competitions. So like, I think that all of them are around $200 for the qualifying events, and then they kind of jump up to around $400 for the national event after qualifying for baristas and brewers and cup tasters and all of those. And that is because you're competing to eventually go on to the world stage. And because we had not been had approval from the WCRC board, we couldn't say whether or not that would be so, and so we decided to leave it off. And so our fee for the national event is like half the price because of that. Hopefully, though, we'll still be able to make it pull through. I mean, it would be so cool. I mean, I think everybody on the Roasters Guild really wants a U.S. champion to go and win the world competition, to be honest. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. That would be pretty exciting. And you know, just the experience itself is huge. So, do we have any questions from anybody on the panel to ask anyone else on the panel, or looking here to see if there's any questions sent in? I think we got all of those answered. Okay. So Nathaniel, when's your next judging session going to take place?
So there's going to be the competition in Knoxville. I will not be able to go to the competition in Knoxville, but I will be in Austin in February to judge the Brewers Cup and the qualifying event for the barista competition.
It's going to keep you pretty busy while you're there.
Is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Maybe that's something else you could talk about real quick. Is what is expected of you as a judge, other than just standing there and taking down the notes.
Right. Prepping for judging and being ready to judge, I would say the two main things that we would really love people to do is familiarize yourself with the rules. The rules and regulations are so important, and so many questions can be answered and avoided by a firm knowledge of the rules and regulations. Getting really familiar with the score sheet that you're going to be using. If you're a technical judge, knowing exactly what a technical judge needs to look at. And if you're a sensory judge, knowing what a sensory judge needs to be tasting, because you're going to get an espresso put in front of you, and there are many, many things within that espresso that you need to assess, and you need to already know what those things are for those assessments. You need to not take a sip and then go, okay, what was I? Oh, I was looking for tactile that time. Shoot, okay, another one. And then, yeah. So you need to be familiar with the score sheet. You need to be familiar with the rules and regulations. And then there are so many great videos online of former barista competitors and champions competing, and watching those and becoming very familiar with the format and the flow of the competition will help you immensely in getting ready to be a very effective judge. And to this day, I still get excited about watching videos of performances that I have already seen in the past. I'll rewatch them just for fun. Because that's the kind of person I am. I get excited about barista competitions. So what?
So if you had to break down the time commitment it takes for you to do each competition, what would you say would be an average?
Well, each competition is going to run 15 minutes, but then it's really the hours of getting yourself familiarized with the rules, the day of calibration before competition, where all of the judges get together and we make sure that everyone is on the same page, that we are all tasting the same things in espresso, that we all call the same things, the same scores, that we're all using the right words for the right scores. So there's a full day in advance of competition, and then the 2 to 3 days of actual competition where we're tasting and assessing. And on those days, depending on your experience as a judge, depending on your availability, we can use you anywhere from a couple times a day to a full day. So I would say plan on having your entire weekend used. And if you're not getting used very often as a judge, take that opportunity to volunteer and to help out the rest of the competition run as smoothly as possible.
Good point. Good point there. Volunteering is also just as important. Let's see. Got another question coming in here real quick. Let me read it. So this question is for Jess. If you've coached a few of the competitors in the Barista and Brewers Cup, what are your tips as a coach?
For competitors, I guess it's an interesting question, because my more recent role is judging, and as a judge, our job is to record what happens and assess fairly, and not to give advice and coach competitors and say, you know what would have made that presentation just next level. We're not allowed to give those tidbits. We're just there to simply record what happens. So to put myself back into that coaching mindset and think, what's the kind of advice I could safely give to competitors across the board, and that is to really familiarize yourself with the rules and regulations. I know Nathaniel was saying it about the judges, but essentially we're the referees, the judges. It's a game, and if you're competing, you're playing the game. And so if you don't know the rules of the game, your odds for winning just decrease. So if you actually read the rules and are very familiar with what they say and what they don't say and what they reward, what the score sheet actually emphasizes, like there are multipliers. Not every category is weighted the same. Some categories actually are weighted more heavily. Do the math, figure out where to spend your time and energy, and look at it as a game, but it's a game that does reward a whole lot of skill and a whole lot of craftsmanship too. So you can be great at playing the game, you can be great at making coffee, and you can be great at both. And I don't know that everybody who doesn't do very well, it doesn't mean that they're not necessarily bad at coffee. It means that they weren't great at this game. So I just say it's not something that you should take super personally, but there's so much great feedback. I don't know a single person who's ever gone through the process and said, I'm not any better for it. I didn't learn anything from it. Everyone unanimously across the board says they learned something and they became a better professional at whatever specific skill it was that they were honing. They walked away sharper and more humble, also more proud of themselves at the same time. So that whole dichotomy, that whole juxtaposition. So I would say, go in to do your best, go in to win, but go in with your head, go in smart, and really focus on those rules and regs.
I think that's great advice. There's a lot of pressure that we have and that we put on ourselves to win. And to but it's really, really about the process of getting there. And that's what the exciting part is for everyone. And that's something that everyone can experience with competition, which I experienced also when I competed. I never competed in anything. I did a throwdown about a barista throwdown probably about, 7 years ago. And I was the first one to go. And it was against Chris Baca. So my competition lasted about 45 seconds maybe, but I haven't competed in anything until I did the Roasters Championship, and I learned a lot. It was great. It was great to learn and work with other people. Now, what if I was like, and I've noticed this about a lot of people. This is still a question for you, Jess. If I know people who compete in a lot of different events. And they do it all at the same time. But what if I wanted to compete and judge? How does that work?
In the past, it's been possible. Like a lot of barista competition judges also were Brewers Cup competitors. This year, because of the different services in Brewers Cup, there's multiple levels as well as a serving the audience portion. So the time commitment required for judging and for Brewers Cup just makes it impossible this year at the qualifying event. There's too much going on. But if you were looking to judge in Brewers Cup or barista, but participate as in the cup tasters, that'd be possible because cup tasters isn't a very heavy time commitment. You could just schedule your judging shifts around your cup tasters scheduled competition time and work that out, as well as there will be the latte art competition, which will be just running like a TNT for the qualifying events, and then a bigger event that you can win a spot in the national version at the qualifiers but that'll be like at the TNTs at the parties, that sort of thing. So that's something you can compete in. You can compete in and cup tasters, those two, and judge either barista or brewers. But yeah, no overlap of brewers and barista. And I suppose if you're competing in the Roasters Championship, you could also judge, probably not Brewers Cup because it's more of an all weekend or at least full day commitment, harder to schedule around. But barista, you could say my morning's available, but I'm my afternoon, I'm doing my roasters competition. If it's something you can schedule around, barista's the place where you could judge and compete at the Roasters Guild. I'm not sure. Jen Apodaca might be able to say something about that. Like if your whole day is going to be blocked up if you're in competition, or if it's just going to be like the morning or the afternoon or something like that.
Yeah. For roaster competitors, you'll have about a full hour that you'll be expected to, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, where you will have your time slot. You'll be expected to show up. You'll 15 minutes early, I believe, or 10 minutes early, and then you will be doing your presentation. And so the total commitment for the competition for each competitor is about maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and then you're pretty much free for the rest of the competition. So if you feel like you would like to volunteer or to judge something else, it's probably a little bit easier.
Awesome. This is all great information, everyone. Let's see, is there any more questions that the panel has for each other, or anything else that they would like to say before we end this edition?
One thing I would throw out there as advice to a competitor from somebody who has, I had done Brewers Cup 2 years before. You know, as you're preparing, do your best to be genuine. As you're developing your presentation, you know, there's, you know, definitely, you know, check your score sheet, make sure you're hitting your points, know the rules, make sure you're hitting those things. But you're not going to come across sincere to a judging panel if you're not sincere. You're not going to be you if you're not you. And I've known many people who have come off stage and have not had the score sheet they wanted. But walking off stage have had people pull them aside and talk about how the impression they made, or even remember their routine years later. I've competed, as I said, a couple times before. I've helped people compete. I've been that dishwasher guy for people. Be yourself, because you're building your own reputation by doing so. And if you're looking to compete, you know, there's not a spot or whatever, also think about being the extra set of hands for your team, and put yourself in a position to learn what it's like to be a competitor from the other side. Like, you know, be that person who's washing dishes because they don't have time to think about washing dishes. Be that person who's obviously volunteer for the SCAA because they need the help. But if that's a time commitment you can't make, look at being that travel buddy, the sanity person that whoever's competing that you know needs, because it helps a lot. A lot.
That's totally true. I see people out there helping, and they're kind of like just kind of following them around and helping them and keeping their sanity closer. And that is important, because it can be very stressful, but it's a lot of fun at the same time, for sure. I think that ends all the questions that we have coming in. But if anybody has questions later, that's listening to this broadcast or sees this later, you can always email all your questions about competitions to competitions@scaa.org, and you'll get a quick response. If that's all the questions we have, if no one else has anything to say, I think I'm feeling pretty good about this chat. How's everyone feeling? Good? Yes.
I'm feeling pretty good about you, Danny.
Oh,
I think Nathaniel is missing the fire, though. I think he really needs the fire for this fireside chat. A little chilly out there.
It is a little chilly out there. And thanks for broadcasting out in the snow. That was nice. It makes me appreciate living in the Bay Area a lot. So again, thanks for watching the 4th edition of the Trierside Chat from the Roasters Guild, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.